Sheldon Whitehouse is now had an ethics complaint filed against him by Judicial Watch, and we have Tom Fitton on to discuss what exactly they are alleging. Tom Fitton, thanks for being back with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Howie, good to be with you again. Thanks for covering this.
And thank you for doing this. He has a wife, Sandra Thornton Whitehouse, and she is a big green type lobbyist, and she's made millions of dollars, has she not, over the past since he's been in the U.S. Senate?
Well, she's done quite well for herself, and she's in the business of working with these environmental groups, and she has a consultancy that benefits from these relationships. And incredibly, Whitehouse keeps on sponsoring or co-sponsoring legislation that directly benefits the group she works with. And this isn't just, they both like higher taxes, so he always votes to raise taxes. But there's a level of specificity here that's really beyond belief in terms of his involvement in the legislation, because it goes to the benefit of her and obviously him as they're married.
So let's take some examples here. After he got elected to office, so this is about like 15 years ago, he wrote to the U.S. Department of Transportation to approve a $22 million grant for a company that planned to lease offshore land in Providence to Deepwater Wind. And then after he wrote the letter, Deepwater Wind hired Whitehouse's wife as a consultant, a nationwide search, in other words.
Yeah, that really ended up essentially just hiring the spouse of the senator who, pushed for the company. It's just incredible. And this kind of thing, this kind of gray area of spousal lobbying and family lobbying and being involved in these, or benefiting from what the spouse is doing who's an elected member, to be clear, goes on all the time here in D.C. But sometimes there is a line, even in this corrupt city, that's crossed, and it's clear that Whitehouse has crossed the line.
Well, this company...
And by the way, it's not just of, actual conflict of interest in a technical sense. The ethics rules in the Senate, yes, the Senate does have ethics rules. They caution against the appearance of a conflict of interest.
Right.
And, given Whitehouse's obsessive interest with pretending and throwing out these conflict of interest allegations against anyone he opposes ideologically in these judicial fights, it really is beyond belief that he takes that position given, what he and his wife are running out of his office. It seems, based on, again, this is all publicly available evidence, so this is not like we're going down and, getting secret audio and video. It's all in the papers.
Right. Well, I'm just looking at the Deepwater Wind. He wrote a letter getting, pushing for a $22 million grant. 3 weeks later, they hire his wife as a consultant. The company, Deepwater Wind, issues a press release boasting that they've hired her. The local media picks it up and runs with it, and then he issues a denial. I mean, this is like beyond hypocrisy. This is chutzpah here on his part, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still a mystery as to what went on there. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the end result of all that controversy was, and this is why the Senate Ethics Committee, among other reasons, should be asking questions of Senator Whitehouse. And, it's not in our letter, but just so you know, remember Tom Daschle?
Of course.
He was Senate Democrat leader.
Right, South Dakota.
10 years back, I guess. His wife was notorious also for being involved in the transportation sector, airline industry, and such. And, there were similar issues. And we filed a letter with the Ethics Committee of the Senate. Of course, they didn't want to do anything, but they took the extraordinary step of reminding all senators of the rules. And they need to be careful about what their spouses are doing in terms of the obvious conflicts of interest. And, someone like Whitehouse, I guess he's there long enough that he thinks like sort of basic ethics rules that wouldn't let anyone else go to sleep at night, or violations of which wouldn't let anyone else go to sleep at night, he can violate at a whim.
Right. Well, here's one you mentioned, the 2020 Save Our Seas Act 2.0. Hundreds of thousands of dollars it funnels in grants to Ocean Conservancy, which pays Whitehouse's wife and features content on its website. Now, shouldn't he, maybe it's not like a direct payoff, but shouldn't he recuse himself if she's getting money from this legislation that he's voting on?
Yes.
I mean, at the very least.
Yes. Or I'm, it's hard. In many ways, sometimes these senators' wives or spouses, depending on the context, I mean, they have a right to work, but
right.
When you have money, through his intercession, being made available to the wife's specific employer that has a specific interest in the outcome of this specific legislation. I don't think this was exactly an earmark, but it's kind of like earmark type activity. Boy, it smacks of abuse of office. And to be fair to Senator Whitehouse, maybe there's all sorts of explanations for all of this. One is an investigation, a serious one.
Is this right that Mrs. Whitehouse, going back to this Ocean Conservancy that they have her on the website and she's writing stuff for them, it says she made $2.6 million in total compensation in 2009 while serving as a consultant for Ocean. Is that just from Ocean Conservancy, or is that all the money she made in 2009?
I think it goes. I'm trying to remember. Is it 2009 through a period of time? But those numbers that we use in the release and in our letter, or whatever they say, those are based on tax forms and press reports. So it's a pretty straightforward, and Ocean Conservancy is a nonprofit, so some of those expenditures are reportable on their tax form. So that's where numbers like that would come from.
No wonder he can afford to belong to two whites only, Protestants only, Mayflower only clubs in Rhode Island.
So, I mean, this senator, he's notorious for putting charts up, talking about these relationships among conservative organizations, and he doesn't want corporations to support conservatives who file amicus briefs in the Supreme Court, and he's somehow wrapped that up with attacks on Ginny Thomas and Clarence Thomas.
Right.
And it's frankly a lot of crazy talk. But then you've got this sort of base evidence, this evidence of base corruption by him with, his wife, benefiting financially from all this excessive spending and mandates and government contract he endorses. It's just a remarkable set of facts in terms of hypocrisy. But even if he wasn't hypocritical, he still needs to be investigated, because it looks what he's doing with his wife and her company and her consultancies and the various organizations she's linked up with. There has to be some type of investigation.
But seriously, I mean, the chairman of the Senate Ethics Committee, the person you sent the letter to, is Chris Coons, who is from Delaware, and supposedly he's Biden's favorite senator. And as long as the Democrats are in control of the Senate and the committees, nothing's going to happen. Will even anything happen if the Republicans take over in the fall?
Well, the Ethics Committee on the Senate side, I'm assuming it's still set up the way since I last checked, it's split evenly.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ethics Committees are kind of unusual in that nature, because it's mutually assured destruction. So you need both parties to agree to take action. And usually that's a guarantee that
nothing's going to happen.
Either nothing's are done, or in the case of the Republican, it's only an inconvenient Republican that's ever targeted for ethics sanctions. But, it's the process. So, I think that doing this is important in terms of educates Americans about what's going on. And it's an opportunity for your callers to share their views about how Senator Whitehouse should be treated by the Ethics Committee.
So who would you suggest? Who would you suggest the listeners?
The pressure goes beyond the Ethics Committee. All senators have a say here, practically speaking.
Yeah. So who would you suggest people reach out to? And by the way, and how do they get to Judicial Watch to read more on this Sheldon Whitehouse ethical miasma that he finds himself in?
Oh, sure. They go to our website at judicialwatch.org, judicialwatch.org. And, the Senate Ethics Committee is controlled by the chairman is, as you say, Chris Coons. The vice chairman is James Lankford. So Lankford is the congressman or the senator from Oklahoma. Other members include Brian Schatz from Hawaii, Jean Shaheen from New Hampshire, so another local girl.
Yikes.
Deb Fisher from
that's a real cast of characters there, including the
James
Republicans.
Gresham.
Lankford's the guy who signed on to the Biden border fiasco that they were pushing recently. But I guess you got to call somebody. Someone says, am I anti-WASP?
Yeah, there are 6 members, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. Yeah. So you know how that's going to work unless voters let their views be known.
No, I'm not anti-WASP. I'm half-WASP myself. But I just, it kind of bugs me that he's in these exclusive clubs that don't let most WASPs into these clubs that he belongs to, by the way. And 401 says he also belongs.
202-225-3121.
Give me that number again.
202-225-3121.
Sheldon also belongs, says someone from Rhode Island, to the ultra-exclusive reading room on Bellevue Avenue, men's only, whites only restricted club. Yeah. But, he's very angry about Clarence Thomas taking a few trips, right? I mean, but it's okay for him and his wife to do whatever the hell they please. All right, Tom Fitton, always great. Give us the Judicial Watch website one more time.
Judicialwatch.org, judicialwatch.org. I encourage people to learn about our work and join our cause and join our movement.
Thank you, Tom Fitton, and good luck with Sheldon Whitehouse. He's a real piece of work, I'll tell you.